The massive space station called Nexus Prima floated in the dark void between stars. It was bigger than most moons, made of gleaming metal and crystal that sparkled with alien technology. Inside its great halls, representatives from 47 different alien worlds had gathered for an emergency meeting. The air hummed with translators working overtime as dozens of different languages filled the chamber. High Arbiter Zeth Kara stood at the center of it all. Her people, the ethereals, looked like tall, thin ghosts made of pale blue light. She had lived for over 3,000 years and had seen many species join the Galactic Council. But never had she seen a case quite like this one. The matter before us today concerns the species called humans, Zeth Kara announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. They come from a small blue world they call Earth, in what they name the Sol system. Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. Some looked like giant insects with multiple eyes. Others resembled walking trees with bark-like skin. A few were just floating balls of energy that pulsed with different colors when they spoke. Despite their differences, they all shared one thing in common today: concern about these creatures called humans. Commander Elena Vasquez sat in the small section reserved for humans. She was a tough-looking woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from her days as a soldier. Next to her sat Dr. Marcus Chen, a quiet man with thick glasses who spent his time studying alien cultures. They were Earth's only representatives at this massive gathering, and Elena could feel thousands of alien eyes watching them. For 3 years, we have observed these humans, continued a voice that sounded like grinding rocks. This came from General Korath of the Stone Legion, beings who looked like walking mountains. What we have seen troubles us greatly. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing scenes from Earth. There were images of human wars throughout history, ancient battles with swords and shields, massive conflicts with tanks and planes, and recent smaller wars with advanced weapons. The aliens watched in silence as the images showed humans fighting, dying, and destroying with the intensity they had never seen. "Look at their history," said Ambassador Vexai of the Harmony Collective, her multiple tentacles waving as she spoke. "In just the last 100 years of their development, they have killed over 100 million of their own kind in wars. They create weapons capable of destroying their entire planet, yet they continue to build more." Elena felt her jaw clench as she watched the aliens judge her species. She wanted to stand up and defend humanity, but she knew she had to wait for the right moment. "They are clever, we admit this," added Chronicler Thex from the Archive Worlds. His people looked like walking libraries with screens instead of faces that displayed information. "Their technology grows quickly. Their art and music show creativity, but their violence—" He paused, his screen flickering with images of human conflicts. "It is beyond anything we have seen in civilized space." Zeth Kara nodded slowly. "In our observations, we have noted that humans seem incapable of existing without conflict. Even in times of peace, they create competitions that simulate warfare. They teach their children games of conquest and domination. They tell stories that celebrate violence and victory over enemies. This is not how civilized beings behave," declared Prime Minister Yalseth of the Crystal Hegemony. Her people looked like living diamonds that refracted light into beautiful patterns. "We have had peace in our galaxy for over 10,000 years. We settle our differences through discussion and compromise. These humans, they settle everything through force." Elena could not stay quiet any longer. She stood up, and her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "Honored council members, you judge us by watching our past, but you do not understand our present. Commander Vasquez," Zeth Kara said formally, "you may address the council." Elena walked to the center of the chamber, surrounded by alien beings that could crush her world without effort. But she was not afraid. "You see our wars and call us violent. You see our weapons and call us dangerous, but you do not see what those wars taught us." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed human cities, hospitals, and schools. "Every conflict we fought taught us the value of peace. Every weapon we built reminded us of the cost of using it. We learned that war should be the last choice, not the first." "Words," scoffed General Korath. "Easy to say when you are outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. "You speak of peace," Elena continued, "but your peace exists because you destroyed or absorbed every species that disagreed with you. Our peace exists because we chose it even when we had the power to choose war." Dr. Chen stood up beside her. "Commander Vasquez speaks the truth. Humans are not violent by nature. We are protective by nature. Everything you call aggression comes from our drive to protect our families, our homes, our freedom. The alien representatives exchanged looks and sounds that the translators could not interpret. Elena could sense they were not convinced. Zethkara raised her hand for silence. The Council has heard your words, humans. But we have also seen your actions. We cannot allow a species with your capacity for violence to roam freely among the peaceful worlds of our galaxy. Elena felt ice in her stomach. What are you saying? The Galactic Council has reached a decision, Zethkara announced. Humanity will be given a choice. You have 30 standard days to decide. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of machinery. Your first option is remedial conditioning. Our best scientists will remove the aggressive impulses from your species. You will keep your intelligence and creativity, but you will lose your capacity for violence. You will become peaceful like the rest of us. Elena's hands formed fists at her sides. You want to change what makes us human. Your second option is isolation. We will place a barrier around your entire solar system. Nothing will get in or out. You may live as you choose within that barrier, but you will never again threaten the peace of civilized space. And if we refuse both options? Dr. Chen asked quietly. Zethkara's light dimmed slightly. Then you will be eliminated. Completely. We cannot allow the cancer of violence to spread through our galaxy. Elena looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at her. Some looked sad, others looked determined, but none looked like they would change their minds. How long do we have to decide? She asked. 30 days, as I said. Use that time wisely. Elena walked back to her seat, but she did not sit down. Instead, she looked directly at Zethkara. High Arbiter, you have made one very serious mistake today. What mistake is that, human? Elena's voice was calm, but there was something in it that made several aliens shift uncomfortably. You assume that because we choose peace, we have forgotten how to wage war. You assume that because we appear weak, we actually are weak. You assume that because you outnumber us, you understand us. She turned slowly, making eye contact with as many representatives as she could. But most importantly, you assume that we will face this threat alone, like frightened children begging for mercy. Are you threatening the Council? General Korath demanded. Elena smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. General, I am not threatening anyone. I am simply telling you the truth. You clearly do not understand what you are dealing with. She walked toward the exit with Dr. Chen following. At the door, she turned back one last time. 30 days, you said. We will have our answer ready for you. But I suggest you use that time to prepare yourselves for possibilities you have never considered. The door closed behind the humans, leaving the Council in uncomfortable silence. None of them noticed the small device that Dr. Chen had quietly attached under his chair. A device that would record everything said in the chamber for the next 30 days. The countdown had begun. The emergency session in the United Nations building in New York had been going for 18 hours straight. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat around tables that had been hastily arranged in the main assembly hall. Outside, crowds gathered in every major city, watching the news broadcasts and waiting for word about humanity's fate. General Sarah Mitchell stood at the front of the room, her silver hair pulled back tightly and her uniform crisp despite the long hours. She had been chosen to lead the Terra Defense Coalition, the organization that had been formed in just 3 days after Elena Vasquez returned from the Galactic Council. Ladies and gentlemen, General Mitchell began, we all know why we are here. For the first time in human history, our entire species faces the same threat. Every border, every old conflict, every political difference means nothing now. President Harrison of the United States nodded grimly. General Mitchell is right. We have confirmed that the alien fleet is real. Their technology is far beyond ours, and their ultimatum is serious. They want to either change us into something we are not, lock us away forever, or destroy us completely. The question, said Prime Minister Chen Wei of China, is what we can possibly do about it. Their ships number in the hundreds. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. How can we fight beings who travel between stars as easily as we drive to the store? General Mitchell smiled, and several people in the room felt a chill. That is exactly what they are thinking right now. They believe we are primitive. They believe we are helpless. They believe we will either surrender or die quickly. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the assembly. It showed a star map with dozens of red dots scattered across multiple solar systems. "They are wrong," she continued. "For the past 3 years, while they were watching us and judging us, we were watching them and learning. Operation Lazarus has been active since the day after first contact." Commander Elena Vasquez stepped forward from where she had been standing along the wall. "Every human who traveled to alien worlds during our peaceful exploration phase was carefully chosen. We sent our best soldiers, our smartest engineers, our most skilled spies. The aliens saw traitors, diplomats, and tourists. We sent weapons." The red dots on the display began to pulse, and numbers appeared next to each one. 73 critical infrastructure points across 12 alien worlds, General Mitchell explained. Power stations, communication hubs, military depots, shipyards. Each one has been under surveillance for 3 years. Each one has human assets in place waiting for orders. President Volkov of Russia leaned forward. "You are saying we have been preparing for war this entire time?" "We have been preparing for survival," Elena answered. "We hoped it would never be necessary, but we knew this day might come. We knew that a galaxy full of peaceful species might not want to share space with humans who remember how to fight." Dr. Marcus Chen, who had been quiet until now, stood up. "I have spent 3 years studying their cultures, their psychology, their history. The Galactic Council has not fought a real war in over 10,000 years. They have defeated enemies through overwhelming technological advantage, not through strategy or tactics. They have never faced an opponent who would sacrifice everything to win." General Mitchell nodded. "Dr. Chen is correct. These aliens fight like people who have forgotten what war actually means. They line up their ships, announce their intentions, and expect their enemies to surrender when faced with superior firepower. But we cannot match their firepower," pointed out Chancellor Hoffmann of Germany. "Their ships could destroy our entire planet from orbit. Which is why we will not fight them in space," General Mitchell replied. "Not at first. Captain Rodriguez, please brief the assembly on Phase 1. A man stepped out of the shadows near the back of the room. He was average height and build, with a face that would be forgotten in any crowd, but his eyes were cold and alert, and several world leaders felt uncomfortable when he looked at them. "James Rodriguez, Special Operations Command," he said simply. "For 3 years I have lived on the alien homeworlds. I have learned their languages, studied their defenses, mapped their weaknesses. The aliens think I am a simple human trader who sells earth art and music to curious collectors." Captain Rodriguez pressed another button, and the display changed to show detailed blueprints of alien facilities. The Crystal Hegemony keeps their entire communication network running from a single facility on their capital world. One building. If that building goes dark, 47 worlds lose contact with each other. He pointed to another blueprint. The Stone Legion stores 90% of their military supplies in underground caverns they think are impregnable, but they have forgotten that humans are very good at digging. More blueprints appeared. The Harmony Collective routes all their power through centralized stations. The archive worlds keep backup copies of their entire civilization in one location. The Ethereals have never considered that someone might target their leadership directly. The room was completely silent as the implications became clear. General Mitchell spoke again. "When their fleet arrives at Earth, they expect to find a helpless planet waiting for destruction. Instead, they will find that their supply lines have been cut, their communications are down, their allies are under attack, and their homes are burning." "This is madness," whispered the representative from Switzerland. "You are talking about attacking dozens of worlds simultaneously." "I am talking about survival," General Mitchell replied coldly. "They gave us a choice, change, hide, or die. We choose a fourth option, fight." Elena Vasquez stepped forward again. "There is something else. Something the Galactic Council does not understand about humans." She paused, looking around the room at the faces of world leaders who had spent decades fighting each other over resources, territory, and ideology. "They think our violence makes us weak. They think our history of war proves we are uncivilized. But they have missed the most important lesson of human conflict. We learn from every battle. Every war makes us smarter, more adaptable, more dangerous." Dr. Chen nodded. "The aliens have had peace for 10,000 years. They have forgotten that war is not just about having better weapons. War is about being willing to do whatever it takes to protect what you love." "How long do we have?" asked President Harrison. General Mitchell checked her watch. 26 days until their deadline, but our intelligence suggests the Harmony fleet will arrive in 18 days. Admiral Thekron of the Crystal Hegemony is commanding 500 ships. 500 ships against our entire planet, President Volkov said quietly. No, Captain Rodriguez corrected. 500 ships against every human in the galaxy, working together for the first time in our history. They will not be fighting just Earth. They will be fighting an enemy they have never encountered before. A united humanity that has nothing left to lose. General Mitchell walked to the center of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your authorization to activate Operation Lazarus. I need permission to show the galaxy what humans are capable of when they stop pretending to be civilized. The vote was taken quickly. It was unanimous. As the world leaders filed out to return to their countries and prepare their people, Elena Vasquez remained behind with General Mitchell and Captain Rodriguez. Sarah, Elena said quietly, are we really ready for this? General Mitchell looked out the window at the crowds of people below. People who did not yet know that their species was about to go to war with an entire galaxy. Elena, for 3 years we have been the mice, quiet and harmless while the cats decided what to do with us. In 18 days they are going to learn something that every human warrior throughout history has known. What is that? Cornered mice have very sharp teeth. Captain Rodriguez smiled for the first time anyone could remember. Ma'am, permission to return to my assignments? Granted. Send the activation codes to all teams. Tell them the war starts now. As Rodriguez disappeared back into the shadows, Elena and Sarah stood looking out at the night sky, where alien ships were already beginning their journey toward Earth. Think they will be surprised? Elena asked. Elena, Sarah replied, they are about to discover that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not superior technology or overwhelming numbers. It is a species that has spent 200,000 years learning how to kill things that are bigger, stronger, and better armed than they are. The countdown continued, but now humanity was no longer counting down to their doom. They were counting down to the galaxy's first lesson in human warfare. Admiral Thekron stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Harmony, and looked out at the most powerful fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 500 ships stretched out in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with crystal armor that could deflect any known weapon. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, powered by technology that could move planets. The Admiral was proud of what he saw. His people, the Crystal Hegemony, had conquered 12 worlds through the simple method of arriving in overwhelming force and demanding surrender. Not one species had been foolish enough to fight back once they saw the futility of resistance. Admiral, called his communications officer, a young crystal being whose light pulsed blue with excitement. We are receiving final intelligence reports from our observers in the Sol system. Display them, Thekron commanded. A holographic image appeared showing Earth's pathetic defense fleet. 50 small ships orbited the blue planet, armed with primitive projectile weapons and basic energy shields. The humans had clearly gathered every fighting vessel they possessed, and it was laughably inadequate. Sir, the tactical officer reported, human defensive capabilities are exactly as predicted. Their largest ships are barely the size of our smallest escort vessels. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields, and their shields cannot withstand our weapons. Admiral Thekron nodded with satisfaction. As expected. How long until we reach optimal bombardment position? 6 hours, sir. We will arrive just after their local sunrise as planned. The Admiral walked to the great windows of his bridge and looked ahead toward the small yellow star that was humanity's sun. Soon this unpleasant business would be finished, and the galaxy could return to its proper state of peaceful order. Admiral, the communications officer called again, we are receiving scattered reports from our home systems. Minor technical difficulties with some infrastructure, but nothing significant. Technical difficulties? Yes, sir. Power fluctuations on Crystal Prime. Communication delays in the Harmony sectors. Some equipment failures at military depots. Our engineers are investigating. Thekron dismissed it with a wave of his crystalline hand. Probably just sympathizers upset about our mission here. Some species have soft feelings about destroying primitives, even when it is necessary. What the Admiral did not know was that at that very moment, Captain James Rodriguez was standing in the main power station of Crystal Prime, the homeworld of the Crystal Hegemony. He looked very different now than he had in the UN assembly. His trader's clothes were gone, replaced by black combat gear that seemed to absorb light. His mild manner had vanished, replaced by the cold efficiency of a killer. Around him, 12 other humans worked quickly and quietly. They had spent 3 years learning every detail of this facility, befriending the workers, mapping the security systems, and waiting for this moment. Team leaders, report, Rodriguez whispered into his communicator. Team Alpha, Crystal Prime Military Command. Charges are set, came a voice from across the planet. Team Beta, Harmony Collective Communication Hub. Ready to go dark, reported another. Team Gamma, Stone Legion Supply Depot. We are in position, said a third. Rodriguez looked at his watch. In exactly 17 minutes, the Harmony fleet would be close enough to Earth to begin their attack. In exactly 17 minutes, the galaxy would learn that humans had not spent 3 years cowering in fear. All teams, execute in 15 seconds, Rodriguez commanded. Remember, we are not here to occupy or negotiate. We are here to break things and disappear. He looked around the power station one last time. The alien workers had all gone home for their rest period, just as they had every day for the past 3 years. They trusted their security systems, their peaceful society, their assumption that no one would dare attack the mighty crystal hegemony. Execute, Rodriguez whispered. Across the galaxy, on 17 different worlds, humans who had lived quiet lives as traders, diplomats, and tourists suddenly revealed their true nature. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers as critical facilities vanished in fire and smoke. Power grids collapsed, communication networks went silent, and military supplies disappeared in massive fireballs. But the real surprise was still coming. Admiral Thekron felt the first tremor of worry when his communications officer announced that they had lost contact with Crystal Prime. Then, the reports started flooding in from across the, fleet. Admiral, we have lost all communication with the Harmony Collective. Sir, Stone Legion Command is not responding. Admiral, 17 worlds have gone silent simultaneously. Thekron stared at the tactical display as red warning lights appeared across the galaxy map. This cannot be coincidence. But how could primitives attack so many worlds at once? Sir, the sensor officer called urgently. We are detecting massive movement in the asteroid belt ahead of us. The main display switched to show the space around Earth. What had appeared to be a normal asteroid field was suddenly alive with activity. Rocks that had floated peacefully for millions of years were moving, turning, revealing hidden surfaces covered with weapons. By the Crystal Throne, Thekron whispered. They have turned the entire asteroid belt into a fortress. The truth was even worse than he realized. For 3 years, human mining crews had been working in the asteroid belt, supposedly extracting metals for Earth's growing space industry. In reality, they had been hollowing out hundreds of asteroids and filling them with weapons, supplies, and soldiers. General Sarah Mitchell stood in the command center of Asteroid Base Alpha, the largest of the hidden fortresses. Around her, displays showed the positions of over 300 weapon platforms scattered throughout the belt. Each asteroid base was connected to the others by a network of hidden communication cables, creating a web of death that the alien fleet was flying directly into. General, reported Major Williams, the alien fleet is maintaining formation as predicted. They are treating this like a parade, not a battle. Perfect, General Mitchell replied. Commander Vasquez, initiate the welcome message. Elena Vasquez stepped up to the communication console. She had asked for the honor of delivering humanity's response to the Galactic Council's ultimatum. Admiral Thekron, she said, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Terra Defense Coalition. I want to thank you for coming all this way to visit our solar system. On the bridge of the Crystal Harmony, every officer stared at the communication display in shock. The human they remembered as a desperate diplomat was now speaking with the calm confidence of a predator. You came here expecting to find helpless prey, Elena continued. Instead, you have found something your species has not encountered in 10,000 years. You have found an enemy that understands war. This is impossible, Admiral Thekron muttered. They are primitives with projectile weapons. As if she had heard him, Elena's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, you are about to learn the difference between having superior technology and knowing how to fight. Your ships are more advanced than ours. Your weapons are more powerful, your armor is stronger. But you have forgotten the most important rule of warfare. The asteroid field suddenly came alive. Hidden weapon platforms emerged from rocks that had seemed dead and lifeless. Rail guns that could punch through crystal armor targeted the alien ships. Missile launchers that had been disguised as mining equipment swiveled toward their targets. "What is that rule, human?" Admiral Thekron demanded, his crystal form flickering with anger and fear. Elena smiled, though he could not see it. "Never underestimate an enemy who has been preparing for 3 years to kill you." The asteroid belt erupted in fire and light as hundreds of human weapons opened fire simultaneously. The aliens had expected a quick, clean orbital bombardment followed by surrender. Instead, they found themselves flying into the largest ambush in galactic history. But the real shock was not the weapons or the trap. The real shock was what happened when the first alien ships were hit. Instead of trying to retreat or call for help, damaged human fighters deliberately rammed into alien vessels, sacrificing their lives to bring down enemies 10 times their size. "Admiral," the tactical officer screamed, "they are not trying to disable our ships. They are trying to destroy them completely. They are committing suicide to take us with them." Admiral Thekron watched in horror as his mighty fleet, which had never faced serious resistance, found itself fighting an enemy that preferred death to defeat. Human ships that should have surrendered when damaged instead became guided missiles, ramming into crystal armor with nuclear warheads strapped to their hulls. "This is not how civilized beings fight," he said to no one in particular. Elena's voice came through the communicators one last time, calm and cold. "Admiral, you wanted to teach us how to be civilized. Let us teach you how humans fight when our children are threatened." The bridge of the crystal harmony shook as something massive struck their shields. Through the great windows, Admiral Thekron could see his beautiful fleet scattered and burning, under attack by enemies who fought like demons and died like heroes. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Galactic Council fleet was in full retreat, and the battle had only just begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in complete chaos. Half the representatives appeared as flickering holograms because their homeworlds had lost main power. Others sat in makeshift communication centers because their capital buildings had been destroyed. The great chamber of Nexus Prima, which had always been a symbol of order and peace, now felt like a bunker under siege. High Arbiter Zethkara materialized at the center of the chamber, her normally steady blue light flickering with agitation. In her 3,000 years of life, she had never seen the council in such disarray. "Report," she commanded, though her voice lacked its usual authority. General Korath of the Stone Legion spoke first, his rocky voice grinding with barely controlled rage. 17 of our critical military supply depots have been completely destroyed. 3 years of stockpiled weapons and equipment, gone in a single night. The explosions were coordinated down to the second. Our communication network has been severed in 43 locations, added Ambassador Vexai of the Harmony Collective. It will take months to repair the damage. How did primitives gain access to systems that have been secure for millennia? Chronicler Thex's screen face displayed a cascade of data that told the same story across multiple worlds. The attacks show intimate knowledge of our infrastructure. These were not random strikes. Someone has been studying us, mapping our vulnerabilities, placing assets in position for years. "Impossible," declared Prime Minister Yalseth of the Crystal Hegemony. Though her crystalline form was dimmer than usual, we monitored every human who visited our worlds. They were traders, diplomats, tourists, harmless. Zethkara's light pulsed with growing understanding. Not harmless, hidden. They sent soldiers disguised as civilians. They have been preparing for war while we thought they were learning to be peaceful. A new hologram appeared in the chamber. Admiral Thekron, broadcasting from his damaged flagship as it limped away from the Sol system. His crystal armor was cracked and his light was weak. "Admiral," Zethkara said urgently, "report on the human defeat." Thekron's light flickered with what could only be described as trauma. "High Arbiter, there has been no human defeat. The Harmony fleet has been scattered. We lost over 200 ships in 6 hours." Shocked silence filled the chamber. Finally, General Korath managed to speak. "You had 500 ships with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. How could you lose to 50 primitive vessels?" "Because there were not 50 ships," Thekron replied. "The entire asteroid belt was armed. Hundreds of hidden weapons platforms. They turned their solar system into a fortress and invited us to fly into it. But their technology is inferior," Prime Minister Yalseth protested. "Their weapons cannot penetrate our armor. Their weapons can penetrate anything when delivered by ships that ram into you at full speed," Admiral Thekron said quietly. They fight like they have nothing to lose because they believe they have nothing to lose. When one of their ships is damaged, instead of retreating, they turn it into a guided missile. Ambassador Vexai's tentacles writhed with distress. This is not warfare. This is madness. No, came a new voice from the edge of the chamber. Dr. Marcus Chen stepped out of the shadows where he had been listening. This is human warfare. How did you get here? Zethkara demanded. This station is heavily guarded. Dr. Chen smiled sadly. High Arbiter, 3 days ago you would have been right. But your guards are Stone Legion warriors and their homeworld currently has no power, no communications and no command structure. It was remarkably easy to convince them that I was here on official business. He walked slowly toward the center of the chamber, and none of the representatives tried to stop him. Something about his calm demeanor in the middle of their crisis made them afraid to move. I am here to deliver a message from the Terra Defense Coalition, Dr. Chen continued. You wanted to understand humanity. Now you are beginning to learn. You have attacked innocent civilians, General Korath thundered. You have destroyed non-military targets. Have we? Dr. Chen asked mildly. Let me check the reports. Power stations that supply military command centers, communication hubs that coordinate fleet movements, supply depots that store weapons used to threaten other species. Which of these targets was purely civilian? He paused to let that sink in before continuing. But you raise an interesting point about civilians. How many human civilians were you planning to kill when you decided to eliminate our entire species? The chamber fell silent again. Finally, Chronicler Thex spoke. What do you want, human? Want? Dr. Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. 3 weeks ago, we wanted to be left alone to develop peacefully. 2 weeks ago, we wanted to find a compromise that would satisfy your concerns about our nature. 1 week ago, we wanted you to reconsider your ultimatum. He stopped walking and looked around at all the alien faces staring at him. Today, we want you to understand that you have made the greatest mistake in galactic history. You declared war on a species that has spent 200,000 years learning how to survive by killing things bigger and more dangerous than ourselves. This is just the beginning, Dr. Chen continued. Right now, as we speak, Captain Rodriguez and his teams are moving to secondary targets. Military academies where your officers train. Research facilities where your weapons are developed. Government buildings where your leaders make decisions. Zethkara's light brightened with alarm. You cannot be serious. You would attack our leadership directly? High Arbiter. You sentenced our entire species to death or slavery. Did you think we would limit ourselves to military courtesy in response? Ambassador Vexai leaned forward, her multiple eyes focused on the human. What are your terms for stopping this madness? Dr. Chen pulled out a small device and placed it on the floor. A holographic document appeared above it, written in dozens of alien languages. These are not terms for stopping, he said. These are terms for surrender. General Korath stood up, his stone form towering over the human. You expect us to surrender to primitives who barely understand space travel? General, let me explain something about human psychology, Dr. Chen replied calmly. When you threaten our families, we do not think about odds or technology or rational strategy. We think about making sure you can never threaten our families again. He gestured to the holographic document. These terms are quite simple. First, immediate recognition of humanity as a sovereign species with full rights in galactic space. Second, reparations for the attempted genocide of our people. Third, complete withdrawal of all Council forces from human space. And fourth, Dr. Chen continued, humanity will take over responsibility for galactic security and military doctrine. Clearly, 10,000 years of peace has made you forget how to defend yourselves. Never, roared General Korath. We will not submit to creatures who solve everything with violence. Dr. Chen looked up at the massive stone being without fear. General, you have two choices. Submit to creatures who know how to use violence properly, or continue to fight creatures who are very good at violence and have decided that you are a threat to their children. He picked up his device, and the holographic document disappeared. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, Captain Rodriguez moves to Phase 3 of our operation. What is Phase 3? Zethkara asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Dr. Chen smiled, and every representative in the chamber felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Phase 3 is when we stop being polite and start treating this like the war you declared on us. Phase 3 is when you learn why every predator species in Earth's history eventually went extinct except one. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Oh, and High Arbiter, you might want to check on your personal security detail. I believe Captain Rodriguez wanted to have a conversation with them about the safety of Council leadership." The door closed behind him, leaving the greatest gathering of civilized species in galactic history sitting in stunned silence, finally beginning to understand that they had not been dealing with primitives at all. They had awakened something that had been pretending to sleep. High Arbiter Zethkara stood alone in her private chambers aboard Nexus Prima, staring out at the stars through the great crystal window. In 3,000 years of life, she had never felt so small, so helpless, so utterly defeated. Around her, the galaxy that had known peace for 10 millennia was falling apart. Reports continued to flood in from across Council space. The humans had not been idle during their 24-hour deadline. Phase 3 of their operation was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On the Archive worlds, Captain Rodriguez himself had walked into the Council's most secure military academy during the middle of a training exercise. He had not come to destroy the building or kill the students. Instead, he had given them a lecture on human military tactics that left the future officers of 17 species too terrified to continue their training. On Crystal Prime, human teams had infiltrated the planet's most exclusive government district and left small gifts on the desks of every high-ranking official, photographs of their families taken from inside their supposedly impregnable homes, with notes that simply said, "We could have been anyone." But the most shocking incident had occurred on Harmony Central, where a single human woman had walked into the planet's Supreme Court during a public session and calmly announced that she was there to arrest the judges for war crimes against humanity. When security forces surrounded her, she had smiled and triggered a device that broadcast her voice to every communication system on the planet. "People of Harmony Central," she had said, "your leaders have declared war on a species whose only crime was being different from you. They have sentenced billions of innocent humans to death without trial. If this is the justice your civilization offers, then your civilization deserves to fall." She had then vanished, somehow disappearing from a room with no exits while surrounded by armed guards. Zethkara turned away from the window as her door chimed. "Enter," she said wearily. Commander Elena Vasquez walked in, no longer dressed as a desperate diplomat but wearing the black and silver uniform of the Terra Defense Coalition. Behind her came General Sarah Mitchell and Dr. Marcus Chen, their faces calm and professional. "High Arbiter," Elena said formally, "we have come for your answer." Zethkara looked at the three humans who had somehow managed to bring the galaxy's greatest civilizations to their knees in less than a month. "How?" she asked simply. "How did you do this to us?" General Mitchell stepped forward. "You made the same mistake that every enemy in human history has made. You assumed that because we were different from you, we were inferior to you. Your people fought wars of conquest," Dr. Chen added. "You developed superior technology and used it to overwhelm primitive opponents. You equated strength with righteousness and victory with justice," Elena nodded. "We learned a different kind of warfare. We learned to win by being smarter, more adaptable, more willing to sacrifice than our enemies. We learned that the strongest predator is not always the biggest one." "But your violence," Zethkara protested weakly. "Your history of conflict and war. Surely that proves you are not fit for civilized space." "Our history of conflict taught us the value of peace," General Mitchell replied. "Your history of peace left you helpless when someone refused to be peaceful with you." Dr. Chen walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "High Arbiter, every species in this galaxy achieved peace the same way. You either conquered everyone who disagreed with you, or you absorbed them into your collective. You eliminated diversity of thought and called it civilization. Humans achieved peace differently," Elena continued. "We learned to live with our differences. We learned to compete without destroying. We learned that conflict could make us stronger if we controlled it instead of letting it control us." Zethkara sank into her chair, her light dimming to almost nothing. "What do you want from us?" General Mitchell placed a datapad on the desk between them. "We want you to accept that humanity belongs in this galaxy. We want recognition that our way of thinking has value, even if it makes you uncomfortable. We want the Council restructured to include species that think differently," Elena added. "No more unanimous decisions that eliminate diversity. No more votes to exterminate entire civilizations because they do not fit your definition of proper behavior." Dr. Chen turned back from the window. Most importantly, we want you to understand that what you call violence is actually our greatest strength. We fight not because we enjoy it, but because we refuse to let others decide our fate for us. And if we refuse these terms? Sethkara asked, though she already knew the answer. Then Captain Rodriguez proceeds to Phase 4, General Mitchell said calmly. And you really do not want to know what Phase 4 involves. Sethkara looked at the datapad, then at the 3 humans standing before her. Outside her window, she could see the lights of damaged ships limping back to port, the first casualties of war that the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. The Council will never agree to this, she said finally. Too many species see humans as a threat to everything we have built. Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. High Arbiter, the Council will agree because they have no choice. In 3 weeks, we have crippled your infrastructure, scattered your fleets, and demonstrated that your security is an illusion. How long do you think your member species will continue to trust leaders who led them into a war they cannot win? As if summoned by her words, the communication system activated. Holographic images began appearing around the room. Representatives from dozens of Council species, all calling for an emergency session. High Arbiter, came the voice of Prime Minister Yalseth of the Crystal Hegemony. Our people are demanding answers. They want to know how primitives with inferior technology have brought our civilization to its knees. The archive worlds are in chaos, reported Chronicler Thex. Our citizens are asking why we declared war on a species that had never attacked us. The Stone Legion is experiencing massive civil unrest, General Korath admitted grimly. Our military officers are refusing orders because they do not believe they can win against humans. More voices joined the chorus of defeat and confusion. Species that had been united in their decision to eliminate humanity were now turning on each other, blaming their allies for the disaster. Sethkara listened to the chaos for several minutes before raising her hand for silence. When the chamber finally quieted, she looked directly at Elena Vasquez. Commander, you said that humans learn to live with their differences. Can you teach us to do the same? Elena exchanged glances with General Mitchell and Dr. Chen before answering. High Arbiter, we can try, but you have to understand that it will not be easy. Learning to live with people who think differently than you means accepting that you might be wrong sometimes. It means giving up the comfort of unanimous agreement, Dr. Chen added. It means listening to voices that make you uncomfortable. It means accepting that strength comes from diversity, not from conformity, General Mitchell finished. Sethkara stood up slowly, her light gradually growing brighter. Very well. I call for an immediate vote on the human terms. The vote was not unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was divided. 17 species voted to accept humanity's demands. 12 voted to continue fighting. 18 abstained, too afraid to choose either option. But it was enough. Motion carries, Sethkara announced. The Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity as a sovereign species with full rights in galactic space. All hostile actions against Earth and human colonies will cease immediately. Elena nodded formally. The Terra Defense Coalition accepts the Council's decision. Our forces will stand down and return to defensive positions. She paused and looked around at all the alien faces staring at her through their holographic projections. But understand this, she continued. We are not going back to being the quiet, harmless neighbors you thought we were. We are taking our place in this galaxy as equals, not as supplicants. We will contribute to galactic civilization, but we will do it as humans, not as pale imitations of your species. General Mitchell stepped forward, and if anyone, ever again, decides that humans are too dangerous to exist, they will discover that we have only been showing you a small fraction of what we are capable of. Dr. Chen smiled. But we hope that will not be necessary. We would much rather be friends than enemies. As the 3 humans prepared to leave, Sethkara called out one last question. Commander Vasquez, was any of this planned? Did you always intend to bring us to this point? Elena stopped at the door and turned back. High Arbiter, we hoped we would never need to show you who we really are. We hoped you would accept us as we are. But we spent 3 years preparing for the possibility that you would not. You see, she continued, humans learned long ago that if you want peace, you must be prepared for war. If you want to be left alone, you must be capable of making your enemies wish they had left you alone. And if you want to be accepted as equals, General Mitchell added, you must be strong enough that others cannot afford to treat you as anything less. The door closed behind them, leaving the council in stunned silence. Finally, Chronicler Thek spoke for all of them. "What have we done?" Zethkara looked out at the stars again, but now they seemed different somehow. The galaxy had changed forever in the span of a